Hi everyone, great to have you join me for another edition of Mining Indaba's Voices of Disruption Digital Diaries. Today I'm joined by Mzila Mthenjane, Minerals Council South Africa's relatively new CEO. Mzila is passionate about the industry and is eager to share his insights around the current state of our sector and ultimately what we need to do to disrupt it. Mzila, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
So Mzila, let's jump right into it. And I'm wondering if you can start to contextualize our interview this morning by discussing what you think are the biggest challenges facing the South African mining industry in present and going into 2024 as well.
I think for me, it's really around the lack of growth in the industry. And we've seen this particularly hit the industry post-COVID, when we began to experience, extreme poor performance from our logistics as well as electricity in terms of increasing load shedding. But combined with that has been a decline in the level of exploration activity in our industry. And we've seen this through the reduction in exploration expenditure, where our share of global expenditure has decreased significantly to below 1%. So it's really one of my biggest concerns about the industry and the biggest challenge we really are facing.
So Mzila, because Minerals Council is here to be the voice of industry and find solutions to our challenges, what from your perspective would be solutions to the challenges that you've outlined?
Well, I think maybe to go back to the first issue around, the logistics and electricity, we're beginning to see working together between government and business, and particularly the mining industry in terms of resolving those issues. So on the electricity side, I think at this stage you'll be aware of the National Electricity Crisis Committee that has been established. And we have a similar crisis committee addressing our logistics challenges as well as on crime and corruption. And these are three work streams that are chaired by in a combined session with the president every 6 weeks. So that's something that is quite encouraging. And the mining industry is at the forefront of providing solutions and inputs and guidance in as far as getting a resolution. With regards to exploration, we are engaging with the DMRE as a key stakeholder and sharing ideas in terms of how to increase exploration, addressing the challenges that have been expressed by investors, particularly through the Fraser Institute survey, which is important for us to give us an indication as to where the sentiment of investors lie.
Super, Mzila, thank you. In Minerals Council, we trust, right?
Thank you.
So, Mzila, you touched on something that I want to just explore a little bit further, and that's the notion of government and industry working closer together. This is one of Mining Indaba's key focuses in 2024. Yeah. What do you believe, is needed to foster an even closer relationship between government and industry?
I'd like to say, first and foremost, we shouldn't get a crisis. We shouldn't find ourselves having to resolve another crisis for business and government to work together. I think we're at a point now where we really have to acknowledge the great opportunities that the country has. And on the back of that, acknowledging the roles and the strength that each one of us as business and government have in order to be able to take advantage of these opportunities and begin to develop the country going forward. No country has ever succeeded from business alone or government alone acting for the prosperity of the nation. So I think for me, that's a first and most important thing, just that alignment between business and government. And on the back of that, really coming up with pragmatic solutions, both for the short term and the long term, which place business in a good position to really be able to invest its capabilities, its capital, and its skills. And from a regulation perspective, I think government continues to have a role to make sure that there's fair competition amongst the private sector players, and that there's good service that is an affordable service that is being provided to society. And we really want to see this industry grow. So, where government continues to own some of the state-owned assets, but they're efficiently operated by business, that will be a good partnership.
Fantastic, Mzila, thank you. Another subject that I wanted to touch on with you today is around critical minerals, something very important for Africa and definitely for South Africa.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, the world's automotive and electronic sector is looking for greater business opportunities in securing critical minerals in Africa. So, Mzila, what is South Africa's role to play in those critical minerals? And are we meeting the ESG standards that these global players would expect?
I think the role of critical minerals is significant, and it's particularly if you look at it in the context of where we're going as a world in as far as what is called now a low carbon future. The ESG aspect goes beyond just the production of these minerals, but the manner in which the minerals are mined. And South Africa, from what I've seen in the industry and broadly speaking in terms of business, has a well-established base of good ESG practice. So I'm really not concerned about that. I also believe that ESG is a team sport. So it's not just about what the mining industry does, but I think it's also working together with the market that needs those minerals to understand specific ESG requirements, and together working towards achieving those ESG requirements as expected. South Africa has a huge role to play. I mean, we also host some of the most important critical minerals that will be required by the globe, such as manganese, PGMs, vanadium, and these are going to be quite important in terms of ensuring that we get to this low carbon future. And so how we conduct mining, I think the advantage we have is having a well-established capital market. So ability to raise capital, that's one key role we can play. We have very deep mining skills, and so that's not a problem taking those minerals out of the ground.
Fantastic. So we should see South Africa playing a significant role in something we will discuss in detail, at least with mining in Indaba. So, Mzila, I'd like to end my interviews with a question around the overall theme that Mining Indaba has for 2024, and that theme is embracing the power of positive disruption. Mzila, what disruption do you believe South Africa needs to re-establish itself as a globally competitive mining player?
Well, I think to be a globally competitive mining player, we need to have a growing industry. Going back to the point where I started, that is one of our biggest challenges, the growth in the mining industry. And so to be able to do that, we firstly do need to have the kind of legislation that encourages significant exploration in order to grow and sustain the industry. So a legislation that enables a potential investor to acquire a prospecting or a mining right anywhere between 6 to 12 months, I think would certainly make the industry very competitive. It also needs to be a legislation which is investor friendly, recognizing the amount of capital that will be required. I think security of tenure and predictability of that legislation is going to be important. And these are two factors that investors over and over again have repeated that South Africa needs in order to be competitive. And I think that as a beginning would certainly make the industry quite competitive and supported by functioning utilities and infrastructure. I think it could really make South Africa stand out as a globally competitive mining player.
Mzila, thank you for your insights, for your honesty around challenges in industry and definitely the solutions that come with that. And really great to see that in just a few months at the helm of the Minerals Council, you are making great strides in terms of some of the messaging that you're sharing with the mining sector. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for having me.